tall are you, Private?
Sir, 5'9", sir!
5'9". I didn't know they stacked shit that high.
The tone of war films shifted after the Vietnam War. Suddenly the movies were not based in pride or glory, but in regret. Today we are showcasing two iconic Vietnam films, The Deer Hunter and The Full Metal Jacket. The Deer Hunter takes us into the average, loving American community and shows us the impact that the Vietnam War had on it. It is mainly set in the United States. In contrast, Full Metal Jacket shows us the impact on American community without explicitly showing a traditional American community. Full Metal Jacket takes place entirely in Vietnam or in the training bases of the Marines. However, even with their differences, both films graphically illustrate the impact on American community that the Vietnam War had. In 1978, Michael Cimino introduced the American public to the horrors of Vietnam with the 3-hour epic and winner of Best Picture, The Deer Hunter. Set in Clairton, Pennsylvania in the late 60s, the film follows a community of Russian-American steelworkers and their wives respectively, living about their blue-collar town as a picture-perfect illustration of traditional American values. Traditional values defining the American way are thoroughly exemplified. Love for hunting, casual drinking, rowdy behavior when off duty, all while remaining loyal to their responsibilities. The perfect American man. More specifically, the film mainly follows 3 steel workers, Steve, Michael, and Nick, who volunteered to serve in Vietnam, the aspiration to proudly serve their country. The first half of the film emphasizes their everyday lives, illustrating the overwhelming strength of this small blue-collar community. Following Steve's wedding reception, which also acted as a farewell party for the 3 soldiers, respectively, the tone of the film quickly shifts into the horrors of Vietnam. The first image the audience sees of Vietnam is a Viet Cong dropping a grenade into the pit, packing with multiple families, hiding from the destruction which routs their village. All of a sudden, Michael, Steve, and Nick are reunited and their brotherly feelings is almost regained until they realize they've been captured. They are held as POWs forced to participate in Russian roulette with other Viet Cong. The game shows their figurative brothers pitted against each other for the first time in their lives, hoping for their own survival and a luck of the draw with a half-loaded revolver. A plot heroically devised by Michael with the intention of using them on the Viet Cong soldiers. Following their escape from the camp, Nick is lifted off into the helicopter, while Michael was left to carry Steve, who was suffering from 2 broken legs. Almost immediately we lose track of Steven. Nick runs away from Mike, continuing to play Russian roulette in the heart of Vietnam, and Mike is sent home. Mike's feelings of separation from his community is first shown when he doesn't attend his own welcoming party. Again, during his next hunting trip, he appears lost and distant from the rest of his friends and family back home. Steven, as we learn, has been so physically and emotionally damaged that he refuses to leave the VA hospital. None of his friends, with the exception of Mike, have come to see him, and his wife shows no interest in telling his location. Michael, in the attempt to repair his community, most importantly Nick's fiancée, Linda, returns to Vietnam to track down Nick. Even at the sight of his closest friend, Nick still appears disconnected. Michael plays a final game of Russian roulette in a fleeting effort to communicate with the now distant Nick. Nick's final expression as he pulls the trigger details his acceptance of his new fate, a soldier who really had died in action. What starts as something so awkward escalates into the only unifying sense that they all still had, the singing of God Bless America following Nick's funeral. Likewise, the underlying sense portrays a Prevail of American values. Despite the horrific outcomes of the 3 soldiers in the line of battle, the American community was damaged, but still survived the crisis of Vietnam.
It's to Nick.
Beginning in the late 1980s, the second wave of Vietnam films illustrated a more critical outlook upon both the war and the American military. Examples primarily involving soldiers training into losing their innocence and any lingering sense of morality into becoming the ultimate killing machine. Stanley Kubrick's critical analysis of this is portrayed in the 1986 big-budget war film Full Metal Jacket, a fictional account of a Marine brigade during the Tet Offensive at the peak of Vietnam. Full Metal Jacket, or FMJ, more thoroughly illustrates the troubles of war while in training and at battle than The Deer Hunter. FMJ has us follow Marine recruits as they go through training all the way to being shipped off to war. The most notable character is Private Joker. Stanley Kubrick uses this film to show that the horrors of war are not only the culprit in damaging soldiers, but that the training and pressures from one's own side also largely contribute. The film begins with shots of the new recruits having their heads shaven. Hair is symbolic of free will and individuality, therefore seeing it shaven off tells us that the boys are losing those two things when they join the Marine Corps. We're even left with a shot of brooms sweeping their hair into a dustpan to solidify the idea that they are leaving anything unique about themselves at the door. We immediately then are brought to see the boys' first confrontation with their drill sergeant, Sergeant Hartman. His insults being thrown at the recruits are meant to show us that these young men are being thrown out of innocence into a pit of fire. They can no longer afford to be nice or calm. Their drill sergeant also makes it clear that they are to submit to his will and become one solitary force, not individuals. Throughout their training, they are also not told that they are the Marines to fight for their country. They are told that they are there to kill. With regards to American community, this is a huge affront since wars are supposed to be fought to protect our nation. Instead, the drill sergeant just wants to see them kill. All of this even drives one recruit to total madness, Private Pyle. He was the softest recruit that they had in the training, and he didn't take the training to heart until he was savagely beaten by other recruits. He then became what he was told to, a killer. However, he killed who he wanted to kill, his drill sergeant, and then himself. In the second half of the movie, Joker is sent to Vietnam and we meet up with him at the US base. He continues to try and act tough to other soldiers, but they shoot him down. His use of John Wayne throughout shows us Joker's valuation of the idea of American heroism, which is what Wayne represents. Wayne actually starred in the first Vietnam War film, The Green Berets, which glorified fighting and was used as propaganda. This shows that Joker's wish to be a killer is still rooted in the American community. However, the most recognizable symbols of the movie, Joker's peace pin and his helmet with "Born to Kill" written on it, totally juxtapose each other. Joker actually seems very conflicted about choosing peace or killing. He even suggests a very deep explanation for his feelings to the officer. Joker also doesn't deal with the killing very well. He doesn't fit into the brutality of the other soldiers. Then, when Joker does kill, even though the victim is helpless, he is inducted into this new community of killers. The American community as he knew it is gone. He has gone the way of Animal Mother and this soldier.
Easy! You just don't lead them so much! Ain't war hell?
Like The Deer Hunter, the film ends in singing, but is an act of satire. They are taking a Mickey Mouse song, something so iconically American, and attaching it to the string of horrific events surrounding the Marine Brigade. They believe in the American community is blinding them to what surrounds them.
Boys and girls from far and near, you're welcome as can be. MIC